Did you know that 60% of people admit that they prioritize other people's needs over their own, even when it causes stress? If that's you, then this is the right place to be. Hey, I'm Margaret, and I'm a mindset coach, and I specialize in helping you get unstuck. And today we're going to talk about people-pleasing behaviors. We're going to identify what it looks like and some ways that you can stop it. So let's just dive in. First off, how does it look when we start people-pleasing? Like, what do our behaviors look like? So first of all, number one, this is a great one. It's hard to say no. How many of you are like me that have struggled to say no? Because I used to be really bad about this. And I still even sometimes get a little anxious when people ask me to do something or want me to be a part of a committee or go somewhere and I don't want to go, but I don't want to upset them. So I'm like, sound familiar? Yeah. So that is people pleasing. A second way that it shows up in our lives is that when we overthink what other people think of us, right? So are they thinking that we're not good enough? Or are we not making them happy enough? We're focused on them, right? It's just a constant, like, instead of knowing we are enough and showing up as enough, we're worried about making them happy more than ourselves. Third, we agree to do things or go places or all kinds of stuff that, we don't even want to do. So I just want to know, like, how many of you have gone to a restaurant for dinner because it was just easier to keep the peace and you really didn't want to eat there, but you were like, it'll make them happy and that's easier than disagreeing. Or maybe you spent your Saturday doing things you didn't want to do and you just didn't know how to say no to them, but it was just easier. And then if you did it, you thought they'd be happy with you. Any of these things sound familiar? I know I've been guilty of them. I think, it's a fine line between helping someone, right, and being kind and sacrificing you. And that's what this is really all about, is where do you draw that line? So we're going to talk about some ways to figure that out. First of all, you want to reflect on, why are you so afraid to say no, right? Where's the hesitation coming from? It's really important, number one, that we develop awareness for why we are holding back. Is it a fear of rejection? That tends to be a really big one. Is it something where we don't think we're worthy? Maybe we're not as important as that person and their needs are more important than ours. And if that's the case, what has us thinking that? And then to really look in and go in and say, what other things might be going inside of me? Am I afraid that I will lose this person as my friend? Am I afraid they won't want to date me or they won't want to stay married to me if I stand up for myself? These are all things that are going to come about if self-worth is an issue or if there's attachment issues, things like that need a little bigger digging into. Now, where do we go from there? Once we have our first step down as our self-awareness, what's next? Well, the second thing we can do is just practice saying no. Now, I'm not saying tackle big stuff, right? Like, let's tackle little stuff. So for instance, maybe someone asks, do you want some chips? And you're like, they're coming over to the couch and I don't want to make them feel bad because they've already poured the bowl. No, I'm okay, thank you, right? Granted, chips is probably not a good example because we all want chips, right? But something small like that, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this grand thing of, no, I don't want to marry you, right? So it just needs to be something small. And when you start doing a lot of little no's, you get more comfortable with saying no for bigger things, right? So do you want to go out to dinner? No, not tonight, but maybe next time. You can always say things like that to keep the door open. It's just about practicing saying no, because sometimes if you're afraid that that person is going to reject you or not call you again or not reach out to you again, it can leave you really anxious and it makes us scared, and that's real. And so just start with baby steps. The third thing is to set boundaries. Now, I think that This sounds great in everything, but this is the hardest one in my book because you actually have to know what your needs are and you have to make them a priority and you have to know what your values are. And so really when it comes into making boundaries, you have to ask yourself, does what I'm saying yes to align with who I am, what my values are, and what my goals are? And this can be really difficult if we have had a lot of trauma or we're in a relationship where we feel attacked, because what happens is that we put up walls. And behind those walls, we are now functioning from a place of fear. And when we're in fear, boundaries are really, really hard to set. Hence, we're pleasing, right? So I think that it goes back to number one at that point. Make sure you're aware of where you're struggling, why you're struggling. And then, what are your values? What are your goals? Because at the end of the day, the question you really need to ask yourself is, who are you saying yes to? Are you saying yes to them? Or are you saying yes to you? Because your self-worth isn't connected to how much you make others happy. Your self-worth is about you and you. So this week, I challenge you to think about and ask yourself with intention as you go to say yes to something and you feel that little awkwardness in your tummy, or maybe you get the jitters, or I have a friend who she feels it on the back of her neck. Whatever your little signs are that your body is telling you, no, we don't want to do this, right? In those moments, maybe you aren't in a place where you can say no yet, but start with the first step and ask yourself, why is it that I'm struggling to say no? Where is my hesitation? And maybe take some time and journal about that, or talk to a friend about that. Message me, share with me, connect with me. And if you want to dig in deep further and you want to explore some of this, and maybe you want some help getting unstuck, please reach out to me and check out my coaching programs. And definitely share this with others and subscribe. See you next time.